Hello and welcome to another build guide, and today I will be showing off my Huntress, Explody, Tumble, Ravenous Dagger build, or whatever you want to call it. So the whole idea of this character is to be as fast as possible. As you can see in the preview, it is insanely fast and it does a great amount of damage to do so. And I will just say right off the bat, this is not a build for the faint of heart because it's kind of hard to control. But if you feel like you're the one to do it, then you go for it. It's definitely a fun build to play around. And I will say the build does very well in both normal expeditions, the Nether, the Great Forge, but I will say it dominates in the Slorm Temple if you want to farm pure Slorm. So that's what the whole idea is primarily in this case for me at least. It's just to farm the Slorm Temple very quickly, and it does it very, very well. So let's go over the mechanics of this character. There's a lot of different finicky things that I gotta go over to actually show you how it actually makes sense. So let's go over the Reaper itself. This Reaper is what we use as our primary damage. And as you can see, it has whenever you cast a support skill, you cast a support eruption, dealing a lot of damage. It's only 100% of your skill damage, but support eruption benefits from the support effects. So it actually gets a base damage of 275, essentially. So the damage is quite good because of that. And also, whenever you cast a support skill, you gain a support streak stack, which stacks up to 50 times, and every stack gives you 3% effect of that support effect. So it goes way higher than this, as you can see. And another thing is that the area is massive. It's nearly 14 yards. That's crazy. And that's without the 50 stacks of support streak. So when you get that up and running, you get over 20 yard radius and a crazy amount of damage. It's actually very fun. But there's an interaction that I want to show off just so you can understand it. As you can see, when I use Tumble, I don't really tumble that often. But there's an interaction that I discovered from another channel, that when you use Immortal Arrow paired with this right here, fulfilling moments, you can actually reset the cooldown every time you go to Delighted form or Tormented state. And that's through this legendary effect right here, the Awoken. So every time we go between Delighted and Torment, you can see that our cooldown gets reset all the time. So this is basically the build. So because of that, we can then scale a lot of the what is it called, instructions. This is very important because every instruction gives us 2 extra to the Serenity stacks or towards the Tormented state. And it doesn't matter which one you land in, as long as you hit Delighted or Torment. Every time you do that, you will then reset the cooldown of Tumble itself, which is pretty much the whole idea of this build. Another thing about the Reaper is that you can then gain passive effects from other non-equipped specializations, but you can no longer get the passives from your own specialization. Only upgrades works. So that means when you take Sharpshooter of the Wild, where you get the Tumble effect, you can only take something like these, the square ones. So as you can see, I only have Assassin's Momentum, I have good reception for the cooldown reset, Accelerating Speed for crit chance. Ravenous Pace to lay down Ravenous Daggers. Very nice. We have Evasive Fire. This is to fire arrow shots, which is making us able to do Ancestral Strike damage, for example. I will go over that later in the video. Action Plan is then there to actually suck in the what can you call it? Ravenous daggers towards you, and then when they hit you, they then explode in a massive spiraling circle. And the Ravenous circles, spirals, or whatever you can call them, is an area of effect. So when you scale area size, they become way bigger, and if you have area of effect, it also deals more damage. But yeah, the point is, we cannot take these passives, that's the round ones. So this one cannot be taken, which is a shame. And you cannot take a Superior Endless Quiver, for example, or the crit chance is lucky. But to compensate for that, we can then take all the other passives from the other two specializations. So in Mistwalker, we take Light Feet for evasion. We take Optimist for making our Serenity stack even greater every time you use Immortal Arrow, which is nice, so we can go up to Delighted form or the Torment, essentially. Next is Hazardous Dagger for the 16 Ravenous Daggers that shoot out in a swirl. Not a swirl, I mean just projectiles. Pretty great, more clear speed. Next, Golden Strike for some money. Erratic Daggers, this makes us able to lay down more Ravenous Daggers. Weapons Illusion, this makes us able to lay down Ravenous Daggers when we actually evade enemies. Pretty great. And then we have some increased damage for poison, and when we hit an enemy with an poison already, we then consume that poison to deal all the remaining damage to that enemy, while still applying another poison. You can do that constantly and do a bunch more damage with this. Pretty cool. And the reason why we take this is because of Ravenous Daggers actually do poison through this passive right here. Ravenous Daggers apply poison. Pretty great. We take Evasive Magic for the massive amount of mana. It's not necessary, you can also take the Greedy Huntress. We take Engulfing Power, just for more area. We take Seasoned Hunter for trap rearm is 100% less, so it's pretty much instantaneous. We get traps from Arrow Shot, and the passive node is Tracking Shot, or Tracking Arrow. You have a 10% chance to trigger a trap when you do a critical strike. And we shoot out a bunch of arrow shots all the time, so that goes off quite often. Next is acidic arrowheads. This makes us able to apply poison through arrow shot, immortal arrow, and so on. Next is Hat-Trick, is going to make us traps, or our traps, able to rearm, so it can actually explode again. Pretty great. Next is Speed, Violence, and Momentum. This makes us able to get a bit more of the clear going and make our arrow shot more efficient, essentially. And then our self-sustain is the Leecher from this mastery right here. Very great. You get all these passives, but you cannot get your own passives, but only upgrades. But that's a good thing, because Tumble has a lot of great upgrades that you can take right here. But these two are not going to have any effect whatsoever. So, how do we scale our damage? There's a few things that we do to manage that. First of all, we just scale a bunch of raw damage on gear, as you can see here, and the braces, shoulders, chest. But that's not all. We also scale a bunch of life, and then we reserve that or log it to get a bunch of flat from Savagery 45, As you can see, we get 88,000 raw damage. We get also a tiny bit from this right here. So this is essentially the big damage increaser that we can get. And the way we do that is through this legendary right here, Chest of Immense Vitality. This makes us able to reserve, or should I say lock our life at 50%. And then in return we get a 48% life multiplier. This goes up to 50 if you have a reinforcement 15. So by doing that and then taking this obscure retribution in the tree, you suddenly log 75% of your life, and then you get a bunch of flat damage through that. Pretty great. But that's not all. We have another thing that we do / abuse to make our character deal massively high damage. And that's through ultimatum of flawless power. But you're probably thinking, that's just a 3 times multiplier when you crit. But because we are using our support skill this often, we can then trigger our runes very easily. And then we take this one right here, Adriana activation rune. So every time you use your support, you then trigger the effect rune after a certain amount to trigger Slorm Temple rune. This makes us able to get a bunch more crit damage, which is pretty crazy. As you can see, it is a 210 multiplier to this right here. When that effect goes off, we have 933 crit damage. You heard me right, 933. That's a massive, massive damage increaser. And the way we get this much effect is because we have the enhancement rune of Hagen, which increases the effect by 180% for this effect rune. So that comboed with the low life scaling is what gives the damage, essentially. We also get a bit of damage from scaling area of effect, because this Reaper has an area of effect built into it. We can then scale it through area of effect, and area of effect just makes it able to increase itself, essentially. So yeah, let's go over the gear, see what we have taken and why we take them. As you can see, the ultimatum is at 301, and the way we get that is through this amulet right here. Your ultimatum gets plus 3 levels. If you did not have this, it would have been 280, and when you get that multiplier up and running, it would only be, I cannot remember exactly how much it is, but I think it's, let me actually calculate it real quick. You have 280 times 3.1. Yeah, so the multiplier goes from 268 to the 933. So it's a nice multiplier to get from this amulet. If you want to, you can pick something different. This is the chest where we log our life. I use this cape for even more life. This is what I used on the previous character to get a massive amount of life. I think if I take this off, we lose like half our life, which is crazy for one piece of gear. We use the belt and the boots combo where we can... Oh, sorry. I put it on the ring instead because I needed this legendary effect. I'll go over that later. So yeah, we take the huge defensive layer from the build and ring. I feel like I cannot really play without it. It's just that powerful. And then we take this one. This is usually a chest, but we have put it on the ring instead. This makes us able to get more evasion equal to the missing life we have, and this also counts for life log. So as you can see, our evasion is quite high, and we have a 87% chance to evade enemy attacks. And this counts for everything, which is very, very powerful. Next thing is going to be Sandals of Line Energy. This is actually a very important piece of gear. If you do not have this, it will feel a bit off, or at least a bit slower, because it makes us able to reduce the cooldown of Immortal Arrow quite a lot. As you can see right here, every time I tumble, it reduces the cooldown quite a bit. And this is pretty much how we sustain ourselves with Tumble. So yeah. The gloves, we took the Visage Helmet of Relentless Transference. This is just for the increased damage to indirect damage, because our explosion on this is indirect damage. So that's very nice. This is just a no-brainer. This legendary or nether gear I have is pretty massive for the character. It gives a lot of area increased size and area increased effect. Next is just the Wraith of Geralosa, or whatever you say. This is just for a bit more raw damage. I will say this raw damage multiplier does not scale with this right here, the Savagery rank 45, because it's a conversion, and conversions cannot get scaled from its own scaling, essentially. It cannot scale itself from percentage raw and multipliers. And then we use this one, Pads of the Drunken Master. This is just to make us able to shoot arrow shot in a circle instead of in front of us. This makes it easier to hit enemies with, for example, central strikes or something like that. And that's great for the defensive layer from the belt and the ring. It's usually a boot enchant. So that's very nice. And then the helmet was the one that makes us able to reset our cooldown of Tumble very easily. Let's go over quickly the skills. Immortal Arrow was the one that made us able to reset the cooldown constantly. And the way we do that is take as many instructions as possible. We take fulfilling moments. This makes us able to give one sincerity stack every time we give an instruction. And we use Optimist to increase that even further to 2 instead of 1 sincerity stack every time you do it. That's very important if you want to go even faster with your character. So these are pretty much the most important ones. And then we take these. I'm not sure how big of an impact they have, but you tell me. And then for arrow shot, we take the bouncing arrow, we take tracking arrow, we take breathe in, breathe out. This is for a massive crit chance multiplier. We take so many arrows for a bit more arrows. I think I think the reactive arrow is probably the best as well for the poison damage. And then let's go over the Ancestral tree again. We took this for the lifelog, but for the other nodes we travel down here. We don't take these, we don't take these, we don't take these. But we do take Cleansing Surge for a great amount of movement speed, up to 50%, but because of one last round, we get another 3 additional. And we get greater quiver as well on top of that to make our arrow shot cover a bigger area. So that's essentially it for the character. I can go over the stats of how they look. Nothing too crazy to see here. Our movement speed is not that great in town, but when you like use Tumble, you're pretty fast on your own. You can scale the movement speed further if you want to. We don't have crazy amount of cooldown, but it's still nice to have some to make it a bit more smooth. And then, as you can see here, we do have quite a bit of added flat raw damage, but the biggest point here is the reserve or the lifelog interaction with the savagery node at 45. You can see our crit chance is only 40%, but for the buff we gain from what is it? Yeah, Tumble. Accelerating speed, we gain a whopping 20%. So most of the time, it's actually 60% crit chance. And then we have a tiny bit of essential strike chance. You don't really need that much on this character, I feel like. You could probably go lower and still have a great time. We scale a bit of armor penetration as well, just to make it easier on heavily armored enemies. I usually always take shadow resistance over anything else, because if you get like that curse on you, it sucks, I would say. But the next best thing is definitely fire resistance. You can see our evasion is high, tenacity is 100%, very important if you want a smooth character. And then for the last tab, you can see we have 7 additional projectiles. This is just for arrow shot itself. And then for area of effect and size, we have a bunch of area increased size, almost 150. And then we have 64% area of effect for the increased damage of both Ravenous Dagger and Support Eruption. And as for leveling, if you want to level this character, I can highly recommend just going with the classic Void Arrow setup plus Arrow Shot. These two together with the Torment state, Torment of the Void, is just such a easy and straightforward build to go. Like, it's just the best, in my opinion. It's probably the best starter build in the game, I would say. And you can just pick this, and let me see, this for like that. I think this is probably the best setup for arrow shot if you want to level up. And then void arrow is already at what is best, I think. So this is probably the best thing you can go with. And then, oh yeah, another thing is, I should have mentioned this earlier. The weakness of this character is definitely going to be the control of it. It doesn't have that much self-sustain when not in combat. It needs to be in combat to actually recover life. As you can see, I don't have any life regen whatsoever. And the last thing is, it doesn't have a insane damage scaling. So as you can see in this video, I do have a lot of investment into the character. So at the beginning, it will not do that much if you want to play this character. So you gotta expect to actually have a lot of investment into the character before it actually pops off. But other than that, I think that's about it, and I hope you found this guide inspiring, and I will see you in the next video, which is probably soon, because I will use this build and probably a lot of the gear pieces to make it. And it's an ability that I really, really love. It's some of you probably know what ability it is that I'm talking about, but I will keep it a secret because not that many players have actually played it. I have searched on it on YouTube, and not that many played it. I don't get it. It's a very underrated ability, but you will see in the next video. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.